My son and his wife laughed at a gift I gave them, called it cheap, worthless. What they didn't know. That little box held something worth more than a Bitcoin. I said nothing. I didn't raise my voice. But what I did next. Let's just say. They'll never forget it. Before continue, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. That's free and only way to support us. Thank you. It was a Saturday I'll never forget. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the maple trees outside my house, casting long shadows across the driveway. I had just gotten out of the shower, beard freshly trimmed, buttoned up a clean flannel shirt, and dusted off my old brown boots. I even gave my hair a quick comb through, not that it does much good these days. My son, Ryan, and his wife, Madison, were throwing a dinner party for their 1-year anniversary. Suburban home, open concept kitchen, smart fridge that talks back to you, the works. I had helped with the down payment last year. Not that they mention it. The invite came last minute, like they remembered I existed 2 hours before they sent the text. Still, I went. Because I'm the dad. That's what dads do. I grabbed a small wooden box from the top shelf of my closet before I left. No bows. No glitter. Just a plain, smooth walnut finish with a little brass latch. Inside it was a coin. Not just any coin. A rare, pre-war American Liberty gold coin, passed down from my grandfather. And beneath it, a folded certificate of authentication, yellowed with age but still sharp. That coin wasn't just valuable, it was historic. The kind collectors would sell kidneys for. Ryan used to ask about that coin when he was a kid. Said it looked like treasure from a pirate ship. I figured, now that he's married, it was the right time to pass it on. A legacy piece. Little did I know what was coming. I drove myself to their place. No one offered to pick me up. I parked 2 blocks away because their driveway was full of Beamers and Teslas. When I got there, Madison opened the door with a glass of white wine in her hand and an iPad in the other. "Oh. Hi, Mr. Brooks," she said with a tight smile. Not Dad. Not even John. Just Mr. Brooks. Like I was her retired mechanic. Ryan wasn't even in the living room. I found him halfway into a cornhole game in the backyard, beer in hand, yelling with his buddies. I waved. He gave me a chin nod and kept playing. I walked into the house, found the table where guests were leaving gifts, and gently placed the box down. Didn't even look like it belonged there. Everything else was wrapped in designer paper or came with brand names, Bose speakers, Apple gift cards, a bottle of bourbon I couldn't pronounce. But I knew what that box was worth. Hours passed. I stood around making small talk with strangers who clearly didn't want small talk. Ate a lukewarm meatball. Laughed at jokes I didn't understand. The kind of party where everyone pretends to like each other while scrolling Instagram under the table. Then Madison clapped her hands and said, "Let's open some gifts." People gathered around. They unwrapped one box after another. Oh my God, an air fryer. Yes, matching robes. All followed by cheers, selfies, and "we're so blessed" captions. Then she picked up my box. Held it like it might have bed bugs. Opened it slowly. Saw the coin. "Wait, is this real?" she asked, lifting the coin like it was something from a flea market. Ryan leaned in and squinted. "It's probably just a replica." Someone near the back chuckled. "Did your dad give you Monopoly money?" Madison giggled and held it up for everyone to see. "Is this a joke? You guys, this is like what you'd win at an arcade." The crowd howled. My son didn't say a word. Didn't even defend it. Didn't say, "Hey, that belonged to my grandfather." Didn't say, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't laugh." Nope. Like I was some washed up joke from a past life he wanted to forget. But inside, they disrespected me. He laughed along. I stood there quietly. Didn't say a thing. Just smiled. Nodded. And left early. No drama. No scene. Just a quiet exit. Something shifted. That night, something woke up in me. A cold, calm resolve. Because they didn't just disrespect a gift. And they had no clue what that coin really was. But they were about to find out. And they'd wish they never laughed. I got home that night just after 10. Didn't turn on the TV. Didn't even take off my boots right away. I just stood there in the middle of my living room, staring at nothing. My hand was still clenched. I hadn't realized it was balled into a fist the whole drive home. Not because I wanted to punch something, but because I was holding back everything I didn't say. It wasn't just the coin. It wasn't just the party. It was every holiday where I ate microwave dinner alone. Every voicemail Ryan never returned. Every birthday card I sent that went unanswered. And now this. Now I was the joke. I sat down, pulled the coin's twin from my safe. Yeah, I had 2. My grandfather had left me a matching pair. One I kept hidden. The other I gifted. Both authentic. Both worth enough to pay off their house, their cars, and probably their student loans too. I opened the certificate folder again and reread the appraisal letter from 2004. The coin had already been worth over $50,000 then. And that was before the collector's market exploded. I checked online. The latest auction, $96,700. Almost one whole Bitcoin. And depending on the week, more. I leaned back in my chair and chuckled. They laughed at me for handing them something worth more than everything they were bragging about. All because it didn't come with a logo. All because it wasn't in shiny wrapping paper. Madison probably thought it was from a pawn shop. Ryan didn't even blink when they mocked it. Not once. I knew right then, I wasn't going to explain a damn thing. I was going to teach them. So the next morning, I called a local appraisal office in downtown Nashville. Talked to a guy named Barry who sounded like he'd lived through 4 recessions and slept on gold bars. When I mentioned the serial number and mintage, he damn near lost it. You sitting on that thing? He asked. Not anymore, I said. I gave it away. He went quiet. You gave it away? To who? My son. Long pause. Is he aware of what he has? No. Barry sighed so hard it crackled through the phone. Well, if he ever changes his mind, I got 3 collectors in New York who'd take it off his hands tomorrow. I thanked him and hung up. I wasn't calling to sell it. I just wanted confirmation. The numbers. The power. Because I was done being the dad they pitied. The old man in the corner they called cute when he made a joke or shared a memory. I didn't need to raise my voice. I had something better. Proof. So I printed a copy of the appraisal. Got it laminated. Sealed it in a manila envelope. And I mailed it, not to Ryan. To Madison. With no note. No explanation. Just the cold, hard value of what she laughed at. Let her sit with that. Let her open it during brunch or yoga or whatever it is she spends her days doing. Let her stare at the number and remember how she held it in her hand and called it a trinket. Meanwhile, I made myself a sandwich, sat on the porch, and listened to the birds. No stress. No bitterness. Just patience. Because revenge is like barbecue, low and slow. Let it cook. And when it's ready, everyone smells it coming. It took 3 days. 3 whole days before I heard anything back. I half expected a firestorm the same day it landed in their mailbox, a dramatic phone call, a voice message, maybe even Ryan pounding on my front door demanding answers. But no. Silence. Which meant one of 2 things, either they hadn't opened it yet. Or they had, and they were too stunned to speak. Then, on the 3rd evening, right around dinner time, my phone buzzed. Not a call. A text. From Madison. Just 2 words. We need to talk. I didn't reply. Another message came 5 minutes later. Can we come over? Still didn't reply. I let it simmer, like a pot of chili. The kind you don't rush because the longer it stews, the better it tastes. The next afternoon, a black SUV pulled up in front of my place. I watched from the window, slowly sipping my coffee like I was in a western, and they were walking into my saloon. Madison stepped out first, heels clicking on the pavement. Ryan trailed behind, hands in his hoodie, looking like he was walking into detention. I opened the door before they knocked. Madison gave me a plastic smile, the same one she wore when she insulted my gift in front of 20 people. Hey, John. Thanks for seeing us. I didn't say I was seeing you, I replied. You just showed up. She laughed nervously. Ryan looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. They came inside, sat on the edge of my couch like it might bite them. Madison spoke first. We got your envelope. I just nodded. She tried to laugh it off. At first I thought it was a prank. Like, no way that coin was actually that valuable. Ryan cleared his throat. Is it real? I mean, that appraisal looked serious. It is serious, I said. You can call the appraiser yourself. Barry. Good guy. Wears socks with sandals, but he knows his coins. They were quiet. Then Madison said the line I was waiting for. We didn't mean to disrespect you. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't. She fumbled. Okay, maybe we were insensitive. But it was a party, people were drinking, we thought it was a novelty. I cut her off. You thought it was junk. And you made a joke out of it. Out of me. Ryan finally looked up. Dad, I should have stopped it. I didn't. That's on me. I stared at him for a second longer than necessary. Let the discomfort hang. Then I leaned forward. It's not about the coin. It's about the way you treated the person who gave it to you. Madison bit her lip. Ryan nodded slowly. We get it now. I shook my head. No, you don't. But you're starting to. I stood up and walked to my office. Came back with the twin coin, the one I hadn't given them. I set it on the table beside their untouched teacups. This one's mine, I said. Still in my possession. Still protected. Still respected. Ryan's eyes widened. You had two. I nodded. And I still have the better one. That stung them. I saw it in their posture. Then I leaned back and smiled. But don't worry. You're welcome to keep the one you got. Just know that every time someone asks about it, you'll have to explain how you laughed in the face of history and family. Madison's face turned red. Not the cute blush kind. The I screwed up and I know it kind. They left quietly. No dramatic exits. No hugs. Just silence. And that silence was louder than any apology. Because I didn't raise my voice. I raised the stakes. And now they were beginning to realize just how badly they'd lost. A few days after their visit, I was sitting at my usual spot, corner booth, Waffle House, black coffee in one hand, bacon and eggs on the plate, when I noticed something strange. People were looking at me. Not staring. Just noticing. Like they suddenly realized I wasn't just that older guy who eats breakfast alone. A man at the next table, Steve, I think, works at the bank, leaned over and asked, "Hey John, heard you gave your kid a coin worth, what, 50 grand? That true?" I didn't flinch. Just sipped my coffee and replied, "Closer to 100. The look on his face? Priceless. He laughed nervously. "Well, damn. That's one heck of a gift." I gave a little nod and went back to my eggs. But inside, I was grinning like a fox in a henhouse. Turns out, Madison, or someone close to her, had opened their mouth. Maybe she told a friend who told a friend. Or maybe she tried to flex the story but didn't expect it to boomerang back this fast. Either way, the town was buzzing. Small towns don't need much to start a fire. A rumor like that, a father gifting a Bitcoin-level treasure and getting mocked for it, that's gasoline. The local antique shop owner cornered me at the gas station. "You still got that other coin?" he asked, practically drooling. I just said, "Safe and sound." I wasn't bragging. I didn't need to. The story was doing the work for me. And Ryan? Oh, he was feeling it. I got a call from one of his high school buddies. Apparently Ryan had mentioned the coin at work, trying to save face, I guess, and someone googled it, and now everyone at his office was treating him like he won the lottery. But not in a good way. More like, "You had something amazing and blew it way." I got another text from Madison. This one was long. Like, "I've done some soul-searching long." She apologized again, more formally. Said she didn't realize how deeply symbolic the gift was. That she was learning to appreciate generational legacy. It read like a blog post from someone trying to win back followers. I didn't respond. Because she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to her guilt. And guilt? That's not something you cure with paragraphs. So I waited. Let the silence spread. Let the town keep talking. Let Ryan and Madison live in the house I helped fund, with the coin they disrespected, and the story everyone knew. One where the punchline had flipped. Because now, they weren't laughing at me. They were the joke. They tried to act rich, smart, classy. And then they turned their nose up at a piece of history because it didn't sparkle. It waits. And when the right moment comes, it shines. So I kept doing what I always did. Went to the grocery store. Cut my lawn. Ate breakfast alone. Spoke louder than all their champagne toasts. Because I didn't have to raise my voice. It started with a phone call from Ryan. His name popped up on my screen while I was in the middle of changing the oil in my truck. I stared at it for a few seconds. Debated letting it ring. Then I answered. "Hey, Dad. So, Madison and I were wondering if you'd want to come over for dinner this Friday." I waited. He added, "Just the three of us. Nothing big." I almost laughed. The last time they invited me to dinner, they made me sit at the far end of a long table while their friends bragged about stocks and sourdough recipes. But I said yes. Because I wanted to see what this was really about. Friday night, I showed up wearing an old button-up and my leather jacket. The one Madison once said smelled like a garage. I wore it on purpose. She opened the door with an overdone smile and a glass of wine in her hand. Again. Same scene. Different script. "John. So good to see you." I nodded, walked past her, and noticed the table was set like it was Thanksgiving. Candles. Cloth napkins. Even wine glasses for the water. Ryan stood in the kitchen nervously stirring pasta sauce like he'd just been asked to defuse a bomb. We Saturday. Ate. Made small talk. Madison talked about her book club. Ryan talked about his office promotion. I let them fill the silence. Then finally, she said it. So, we've been thinking a lot about the coin. Here we go. We didn't appreciate it when you gave it to us, she said. And we're sorry. Truly. Ryan nodded along. We both are. I leaned back, arms crossed. She kept going. It wasn't just the gift. It was what it meant. And we were unkind, I said. She blinked. Yeah, Ryan agreed quickly. That's fair. I looked at the two of them, dressed up like they were auditioning for a forgiveness commercial, and I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just clarity. They weren't apologizing because they understood. They were apologizing because the world now understood, and they didn't like how that felt. You know, I said, setting down my fork, I didn't give you that coin for your approval. I gave it to you because it was time. I gave it to you because it came from men before me. Men who built their lives on hard work and respect. They were quiet. I didn't expect a parade. But I didn't expect to be laughed at either. Ryan swallowed hard. I know. Madison said nothing. Here's the thing, I continued. You can't buy legacy. You can't fake class. And you sure as hell can't recognize value if all you've ever been trained to see is packaging. Boom. She flinched, just slightly. I picked up my napkin, wiped my mouth, and stood. Dinner was fine. Sauce was a little bland, but that's okay. Madison half laughed. Oh. I didn't cook it. I figured. They stood to walk me out. As I stepped into the hallway, I looked at the display shelf near their front door. There it was, the box. The coin. Sitting behind a glass case now, as if it had always been honored. I smiled. They didn't say much more. Didn't need to. Because they knew. They knew the damage wasn't to the coin. It was to themselves. And now, they were trying to patch it up with pasta and apologies. But respect isn't something you earn back with dinner. It's something you rebuild brick by brick. And they just started laying the first one. The very next week, I got a call from my lawyer. He's an old friend, Mike. Used to coach Ryan's little league team before retiring from corporate law and settling into estate planning. We hadn't talked in a while, but I figured it was time. John, he said after I explained the situation, you sure you want to update the will now? Damn right I'm sure. All right then. You want to put some teeth in it? Oh, I wanted to bite, I said. It was time to make some changes. Real changes. Because I realized something that night after their dinner, something I'd probably known deep down for a while. Ryan and Madison weren't going to value anything, not me, not my life's work, not my legacy, unless there were strings attached. Unless it affected them. Unless it had consequences. So I updated everything. My will. My trust. The titles on the properties. The house they were living in. That big 2-story suburban box they bragged about at Y nights. I helped buy it. They always acted like they owned it outright, but the down payment came from me. And guess what? I never signed the gift paperwork. It was still technically a loan. And I still had the receipts. Mike helped me file the paperwork to convert the gift into a lien. Nothing aggressive. Nothing that would show up right away. Just enough that if they ever tried to sell the house, they'd owe me. Not emotionally. Legally. Then, I went a step further. I transferred partial ownership of my grandfather's land, the one in Georgia that's been in our family since the Depression, into the name of my nephew. The one who still visits. The one who calls me Uncle John every Sunday and checks in when he's in town. If I was going to leave behind something, I was damn well going to leave it with someone who saw it for what it was. Respect. History. Not a decoration. And for Ryan, I left a note in the trust. Not a letter. A note. Short and sharp. If you ever wonder why you didn't get everything, ask yourself what you did with the first thing. The coin. The moment. The man who gave it to you. That was the test. And he failed it. You see, people like Madison think legacy is about money. About square footage. About designer kitchen backsplash and Instagram followers. But legacy. It's how people say your name when you're not in the room. And I wasn't about to let mine be remembered as some old fool who got laughed out of his own family. So I took control. My house. My assets. My dignity. And I didn't tell them a thing. Let them keep thinking they're the heirs to some empire. Let them live comfortably in a home they think they own. Let them hang that coin on the wall and take pictures with it like it's some quirky antique. Because the real story, the real power, is in what they don't know. And when they do find out, it won't be through a fight. It'll be through paperwork. Because revenge doesn't always come with shouting matches and broken dishes. Sometimes, it comes with signatures and silence. And man, does it hit harder that way. 2 weeks passed. No calls. No visits. Not even a passive-aggressive hope you're well text from Madison. That told me one thing, they were stewing. And nothing in this world cooks up better regret than silence from someone you know you wronged. I wasn't hiding. I went about my life as usual. Coffee at Waffle House. Yard work on Sundays. Grocery runs to the local Kroger where half the town now looked at me like I was some retired billionaire hiding in plain sight. The coin had become a local legend. Apparently, someone in Madison's book club had heard the story through her yoga instructor's cousin. You know how small towns work, facts get stretched, names get dropped, and by the end of the week, people were calling me the gold coin grandpa. I didn't mind. It made people smile. And that was more than I could say for my son. Then one Thursday evening, just as I was settling into my recliner with a cold beer and a game on the radio, there was a knock at the door. Ryan. Alone this time. He looked rough. Not homeless rough, but sleepless, worn down, that kind of haunted face a man gets when he's been walking around with guilt as heavy as wet cement. I opened the door. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then he asked, "Can I come in?" I didn't say yes. But I stepped aside. He sat down like the couch might shatter under him. "I don't know where to start," he said quietly. I didn't help him. He took a deep breath. "I think Madison knows something's changed. She keeps asking me why you're so quiet, why you haven't responded, why you seemed different." I raised an eyebrow. Different how? He looked me dead in the eye. Stronger. That hit different. Because for the first time in a long time, my son didn't sound like a man talking down to his dad. He sounded like a man who just realized his dad had teeth. "I didn't come here to ask for anything," he said. "I just wanted to say that I know I messed up. And I don't know how to fix it." I took a long sip from my beer. Then I said, "You can't." He blinked. "You can't undo what was done," I continued. "But you can decide what kind of man you'll be going forward." He nodded. "And for the record," I added, "strong isn't new. You just stopped seeing it when you started looking through her lens." Silence. And then he said something I didn't expect. "I walked past the coin yesterday. Just looked at it for a while. Not because of the value. But because of what it meant. It was the first real thing you tried to pass down to me." "And you spit on it," I said calmly. He nodded. "Yeah, I did." I stood up, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled out a small wooden frame. Inside was an old photo of my dad, my grandfather, and me, all standing in front of that Georgia property, covered in sweat and dust, holding shovels, grinning like fools. I handed it to him. "If you want to fix anything," I said, "start by remembering who we are. Not what we own. Not what we drive. But who we come from." He took the frame like it was a fragile relic. "I'll try," he said. "I know." As he stood to leave, he paused. "Are you going to tell Madison about the house paperwork?" I smirked. "Eventually." His eyes widened. "You already did something, didn't you?" I didn't answer. He chuckled nervously. "Man, you really are a ghost in the walls now." I opened the door. He walked out without another word. And as I closed it behind him, I felt it again, that steady, quiet sense of justice. No courtroom. No raised voices. Just dignity wrapped in mystery. And that, right there, was the revenge. Because now, every wall in that house was whispering. And they had to live with the echoes. It started small. A realtor called me, out of the blue, asking if I was aware that someone had inquired about refinancing the house in Ryan's name. I knew exactly who someone was. "Tell them to read the lien documents," I said flatly, and hung up. The next day, Ryan called. "Dad. Did you put a lien on the house?" I didn't even flinch. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Silence. He sighed. "Madison wanted to renovate the kitchen. She called a broker. The guy pulled up the title report and realized your dad still has the leash. Come on, Dad. Don't make this ugly." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm not making anything ugly. I'm just reminding you whose money built those walls." He didn't argue. He knew he couldn't. Because the deeper he and Madison dug into the paperwork, the more they realized they weren't holding the shovel. I was. And I didn't bury anything. I planted it. Meanwhile, Madison was unraveling faster than a cheap sweater in a spin cycle. I heard from a friend at the bank, Small Town Perks, that she stormed in last week trying to unfreeze equity she never actually owned. Apparently, she tried to play the sweet, innocent wife card, and when that didn't work, she turned full shark mode. Didn't matter. The paperwork was airtight. Ryan stopped by again, alone. This time with a six-pack of beer and a look on his face like someone who just found out their college degree was fake. I think she's gonna leave me, he said. I cracked open a can. Why? He shrugged. She says I don't stand up to you. That I've let you win. I took a long sip. This isn't a game, son. No one wins. We all just live with the rules. He was quiet for a bit. Then he asked the one question I knew was coming. Why didn't you tell me? About the lien, about the will changes, about the trust. He looked up. You needed to feel it, I said. Not just hear it. He nodded. No argument. No yelling. Just understanding, the slow, painful kind. Then he said something that stuck. I wish I'd known sooner. What that coin meant. What you meant. I looked at him. Hard. You did know. You just forgot. He looked like he wanted to cry. But he didn't. He just sat there, drinking in silence, listening to the sound of his pride breaking down brick by brick. And me. I didn't feel good about it. But I didn't feel bad either. Because this wasn't revenge anymore. But not for them. For me. I'd spent years being silent. Being the quiet one. The father who gave and rarely asked for anything in return. They thought that silence meant weakness. But silence is a tool. A weapon. And in the right hands, it's louder than any scream. It was a Saturday morning when I saw him again. Ryan pulled into my driveway in his old Ford instead of that leased SUV he used to flaunt like a status badge. No Madison this time. Just him, a backpack, and a look I hadn't seen in years. Humble. I was in the garage, sharpening an old pocket knife. Didn't stop what I was doing when he walked up. Hey, Dad. Morning, I replied, still focused on the blade. He stood there awkwardly, then finally said, I'm not here for anything. That got my attention. I set the knife down. No house talk. No paperwork drama. No, we're trying to refinance again. He smirked. Nope. I nodded toward the folding chairs. He grabbed one and sat beside me, staring at the oil stains on the garage floor like they had answers. I moved out, he said after a while. That made me raise an eyebrow. Temporarily, he added. Madison and we're not on the same page anymore. I waited. She doesn't get it. The legacy. The meaning. She still thinks the coin is just about the money. And you? I asked. He looked at me. I think I was more upset you didn't tell me what it was worth than the fact that I laughed at it. I didn't speak. I was embarrassed, he admitted. Not by the coin, by myself. By what I became. I let her shape me into someone who forgot what really matters. I finally said, it wasn't just her. I know. Silence. Not angry silence. The kind that lets you both breathe. Then he opened the backpack and pulled out a framed photo. It was the same one I'd given him weeks ago, the one of my father, my grandfather, and me, but now it was cleaned up, the frame replaced, glass polished. I want to hang this up, he said. Where I live. On my wall. No matter where that ends up being. I took it from him, ran my finger over the frame. You're not forgiven yet, I said flatly. I didn't ask to be. Good. He finally got it. He wasn't here for grace. He was here for truth. I'm not asking for the house back, he added. Or the money. Or your trust. I looked at him again. Because I know trust is earned. And I haven't earned it. There it was. The real apology. Not a rehearsed speech. Not a guilt trip. Just raw honesty from a man who finally took responsibility. I stood up, walked over to the workbench, and grabbed something wrapped in old cloth. When I unwrapped it, Ryan's eyes widened. It was a box. Not the original one I'd given him. That one was still in their display case. This was the second one. The twin. Same wood. Same latch. Different story. I want you to have this, I said. He froze. Are you serious? Don't get excited. It's empty. He looked confused. You already got the coin, I said. This one's a reminder. Of what? I stared him down. That value isn't in the gift. It's in how you treat the person who gave it. He nodded slowly. I won't forget again. You better not. He stood to leave. Hey, I called out before he reached the door. Yeah. Next week, bring lunch. I'm not cooking for free anymore. He smiled. Deal. And just like that, something shifted again. Not fully healed. But mending. Slowly. With bruises and lessons and a box that now meant more empty than it ever did full. A few weeks passed. The air turned crisp. Leaves started falling. My porch was covered in reds and golds, and for once, the season matched the way I felt inside, calm, clear, no longer boiling underneath. Ryan had started showing up more. Not to grovel. Not to beg. He came to help me change the light bulbs. Fix the loose fence panel. Watch football on mute because we'd end up talking more than watching. He brought pizza sometimes. Sometimes just stories. It wasn't perfect. But it was honest. And that was more than I ever asked for. As for Madison, well, we didn't speak much. I heard through the grapevine she'd picked up a few side hustles online. Selling candles or yoga leggings or something. People like her don't do well with quiet consequences. They need to be seen. Applauded. Forgiven out loud. But I'm not the audience for that show anymore. Let someone else clap. One Saturday morning, I sat on my porch swing with a coffee and the paper. Ryan pulled up in his truck, walked up the steps, and handed me a worn envelope. "What's this?" I asked. He shrugged. "Just something I've been working on." I opened it and saw a letter, handwritten, something nobody under 40 does anymore. In it, he wrote everything he'd never said out loud. Memories of us fishing. How he used to brag about my toolbox to his friends. How proud he felt the first time he beat me in a game of catch, and how ashamed he was when he forgot those things chasing Madison's approval. "I traded legacy for likes," he wrote. I folded the letter and tucked it into my coat pocket. Didn't say much. But he saw it on my face. And then, as we sat there watching the wind blow through the oaks, he finally asked, "Are you ever gonna sell the coin?" I shook my head. Nope. Why not? Because it already did what it was meant to do. He looked confused. "It exposed everything that needed exposing," I said. "Your priorities. My silence. The cracks in our foundation." He nodded slowly. "I thought I gave it to you as a gift," I continued. "But maybe it was a mirror." He exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for months. We didn't speak for a while after that. Just rocked back and forth on the porch swing, sipping coffee, watching the world keep spinning. And I realized something. The coin had value, yes. But the real inheritance wasn't gold. It was the lesson. The rediscovery of who we were before the noise. The memory of hard hands, calloused and proud. Of quiet fathers who didn't need trophies to feel like kings. And of sons who lost their way, but found it again not through speeches, but through truth. You see, revenge doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it comes with clarity. With holding your ground long enough that the other person realizes you were never standing in their way, they were just walking in the wrong direction. And when they finally turn around, you don't have to say, "I told you so." You just point forward. And start walking. That's what I did. And this time, Ryan walked beside me. Not behind. Not ahead. Beside. Because the real gift wasn't in a box. It was in becoming the kind of man who no longer needed one. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. That's free and only way to support us. Thank you.